Hello and welcome to the Story Behind the Stories, your weekly look at the pages of the Neepawa Banner Press. I'm Eoin Devereux, news and sports reporter with the Banner Press, welcoming you once again to the show. Joined this week by Casper Wehrhahn. Casper, good to have you here.
Good to be here once again, and excited to go through another paper.
It's good just to have you here as well. As we record this, we are recording this on Wednesday, the 13th of April, in the midst of a massive snowstorm. I know this because I drove here this morning and then went for lunch, and then I walked here after lunch because my vehicle is nicely tucked away on the side of one of the roads here in Neepawa. It just decided, no, we're not getting through this. So I hope that you are home. I hope that you are safe. And I hope all your vehicles are safe as well at home. Just very appreciative of you taking the time. And maybe, Casper, as well, maybe it's a case of we are sharing the paper because our distribution days are they're going to be today and Thursday. So we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's going to be, it'll be interesting. We might not be able to get the paper out quite as soon as we hoped. And then even after that, who knows, maybe you're not able to get out and grab a paper quite as soon as you would like either. So maybe you'll be hearing about the paper directly from us, and maybe if you need to, grabbing it from our website.
That's right. And of course, you're going to be able to watch it, though, here as well, right here on NAC TV. If you're not able to get a physical copy of it this week, due to circumstances, NAC TV Reads the News is ongoing. So hopefully you'll tune into that and get all the details. But hopefully we can get through the storm and you'll be able to get out and about and get a copy of it yourself. But this week's paper, definitely, it's one worth grabbing, one worth picking up, because there were a lot of activities that went on before Mother Nature decided, you're done for the week. And one of the big ones was the Neepawa Sports Dinner and Auction, and the arrival of some very special items, one of which was the Grey Cup, the biggest prize and honor in all of Canadian football. And we were very pleased to be able to have Shane Gauthier, linebacker with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. He came with the cup, Casper showed off the championship ring that they won. Oh my God, I don't know if you've ever seen one of those things up close, but they are just, even for Canadian football, which maybe isn't the same cachet as the NFL or the NBA, that's still a pretty pricey piece of jewelry, I gotta tell you.
It certainly is from the looks of it. If I remember correctly, I think there was a pair that maybe it was a collector or something. Somebody had brought into the office, and I think you took pictures of before. I happened to be around. Was that for the same type of thing? Or?
That was the father of one of the players for the St. Louis Blues when they won the Stanley Cup.
Okay.
And they brought it in, and theirs was worth like $45,000 or $50,000 just for the ring. Obviously, CFL's not quite as but still, the one that they brought in was about $25,000. And that's one of those things of, no matter what happens, you're always going to have that memorable thing. And it's the echelon of sports, except for one other thing. If we're not going to keep you in suspense on what that one other thing is, but it would be an Olympic gold medal. Well, what do you know? We had one of those as well.
Wow. That and the gold medal in one night is very, very incredible. Like, how often does that happen?
That's right. It was Olympic gold medalist Kristen Campbell, goaltender for Team Canada, at the Beijing Olympics this year. So it's the freshest gold medal. No stale gold for us.
Woo!
And she brought the gold medal as well. And if you look on the front page of this week's edition of the Banner Press, you'll see Shane and Kristen. They actually exchanged sort of trophies. Shane wearing the gold medal, Kristen with the big honking championship ring, and the Grey Cup in between. And they were all here for the sports dinner. It's the first time they've been able to put that on, Casper, in 2 years, obviously due to the situation with the pandemic. And it went over well. Not everyone was able to get out. There's still people who are a little concerned about the COVID-19 situation, and my opinion, rightfully so, might not be your opinion. It's just my opinion, rightfully so. but they still supported the team by buying tickets even if they weren't there. And that's great, to be able to assist the Neepawa Titans in that way and to support local sports in Neepawa. I think that's a big deal, and it's something I think that was kind of missed.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, having been 2 years since people have really been able to do a whole lot, especially in terms of events like this, is definitely something that, in my estimation, from things I've heard here and there over the years, it has been sorely missed by the community in the surrounding area. And for this to come back in such a big way, even with COVID-19 concerns, just from people supporting it, like you mentioned, and then of course the fantastic guest appearances that were able to be there, and the Grey Cup, of course, is incredible.
That's right. It was a big night, a lot of festivities. High Life Foods did all the catering, did a tremendous job. They've always been such a big supporter of the team as well. Greatly appreciated. As well, over 200, in and around 200, maybe just over 200 people were there at the Yellowhead Hall. They heard the feature presentations. They heard comedian Big Daddy Taz, who came out and did some stuff. They had an auction. The numbers aren't officially official yet about how much was brought in, but it was very well received. And as well, we heard the announcement of the 2022 Sports Person of the Year. That's a story we're going to be getting to in just a little bit. So we're going to tease you a little bit on that. But we're going to come back around to it soon enough. Let's keep with the Grey Cup, though, because not only was it at the sports dinner, Casper, it was also out and about in Neepawa. And if you go on to page 19 of this week's edition of the Banner Press, you can see some of the out and about that I'm talking about there. It was at Tim Hortons. This is the funny thing, Casper. I went to Tim Hortons to grab a coffee and a bagel, and I got to admit, I had actually forgotten that it was going to be there. That's why it pays to advertise in the Banner and Press. I walked in, and the Grey Cup's just right there, and it's like, well, that's something you don't see at Tim's every day.
Yeah, that would sure catch your eye when you're getting your coffee.
Exactly. So I ended up speaking with them, getting a picture. Luckily, a family came in almost immediately to get pictures as well. And that's the good thing. I was talking to the staff, representatives with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers about that, and things really started to pick up. People coming in wearing their Bombers gear and all that, getting pictures. I didn't get a picture myself this time, mainly because when I was working in Portage La Prairie at the radio station there, the Grey Cup, they actually had a Grey Cup train go from coast to coast just before Grey Cup 1 year, and went in there and got pictures, with the cup, with the big fancy backgrounds. Where I worked, ties were mandatory. A tie and a collared shirt was mandatory, so I was dressed to the nines there. Unlike here, where it's like, there's hardly any ketchup stains on this sweater, so we're good.
It'll work. It will be fine.
Exactly. But it's great. I'm a huge Canadian football fan. So to be able to see it like that, it's great. And to be able to, organization like the Blue Bombers coming out to a smaller town like Neepawa like that, it's nice. I think it's one of those things that, even if you're not a football fan, a sports fan, just that type of fun activity every once in a while, I think is a real pick-me-up for a community.
Absolutely. And now I don't suppose they had it shined up with a Timbits display in it, did they?
No. That actually, you make a valid point. They really should have filled it with Timbits, the actual cup portion. Yeah, that would have been synergy between the two, or maybe a double. I mean, and it's a fair sized cup, a bowl you can see on there. So that'd be maybe too much coffee.
Yeah, you might have quite the case of the jitters if you drank all that by yourself.
Exactly. I had an opportunity to speak with Shane Gauthier as well. And I got to admit, I was a little surprised by this. I know Canadian athletes are not quite as large as NFL. NFL, they're giant condominiums walking about. Shane was about an inch shorter than I was, or maybe an inch taller. No, an inch shorter than I was, and was about maybe 15, 20 pounds heavier than I am. And anyone who's seen me out and about knows I'm not an athlete. Like, I'm not a real athlete in any way, shape, or form. I go to the gym, but really, that's just for show, you know. None of this is functional in any way, shape, or form. But it amazed me just because these Canadian athletes in the Canadian Football League, they're real people. I mean, that's one of the charms, I think, of the league.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I don't know, that's something that is definitely, I don't know, not the right wording, but like interesting to think about, because these are people that you see on TV, but then you just see them out and about, and it's just like they're just like any other person, like that could be you on the field for all we know.
That's right. And you know what? I'm gonna get one of those fake rings now that looks like it, and I'm gonna say, oh yeah, I was part of the team. Yeah, definitely. That'll go over with the ladies, I'm sure. No, that would be right. That's wrong. So I just got to throw that in there. You talk about just being regular people, out at Tim Hortons, out at events like the Sports Dinner, and staying in just local community hotels. And unfortunately, sometimes that comes back to bite you. Literally, it seems. Let's flow to you, Casper, on this unfortunate story.
Yeah, this was definitely very unfortunate to hear about. The comedian that had come to entertain for the Sports Dinner evening had accommodations booked at a hotel in Neepawa, the Bay Hill Inns. It is named in the story there, and unfortunately, after having like a pre-show nap, because traveling, you're tired and you want to have the energy for before you entertain at this event, woke up with a bunch of welts like all over his body and discovered that he had bed bugs in his bed.
That was Big Daddy Taz.
Yeah, Big Daddy Taz.
It started with a message he put out on social media.
Yeah. And we got this story from him, of course, collaborating with the team there about the situation so that they knew what was going on and whatnot. He found bed bugs in his room, and it was just sort of unfortunate to hear how it played out, according to the story he told there.
You're right, yeah.
Yeah.
Because again, every business, everything is a representation of our community, and we want to be a good representation.
Absolutely. And of course, when you're playing as or acting as the host for something that your organization is putting on, and you're like, oh yeah, we can like set you up here, then that potentially reflects bad on you as well, and you don't want that to happen, obviously, even if it is outside of your control, because you don't obviously know what's going on there. But yeah, just apparently tried like 3 different times to communicate with the front desk people and the management sort of as a whole there, and I guess just received a very underwhelming response in terms of how it was handled, especially because it was found in other rooms as well, according to Taz's account there. Like, it was 3 or 4 other rooms, because there was also Blue Bombers that were in town with him that were going to stay at the same hotel.
And then they didn't,
Some alternative accommodations were figured out there in collaboration with the Neepawa Titans. And, apparently they were still checking in guests while this was going on too, which, like, I don't know I'm not brushed up on all the bed bugs details, obviously, but it's, this is something that does need to be taken seriously, and it just, it doesn't seem to have been handled that way, which is disappointing.
And this is the story behind the stories, and we tell that story that maybe we don't tell in the paper itself, but we tell you the backstage stuff. We don't like calling out local businesses. I mean, let's be honest. We're not the New York Times, and we're not the Washington Post. There is no Watergate happening, fortunately, in the town of Neepawa, but we do have to tell the story. And sometimes the story is positive, sometimes the story is negative. Like I said, if Ken Waddell, owner and operator of the Neepawa Banner, ended up shooting somebody in downtown Neepawa, you better believe that next week's paper will be man wearing hat shoots someone in downtown Neepawa. That's just the way Ken is, and that's the way we are. We don't like calling out businesses, but when the circumstance calls for it, it has to be called for. It's the same thing with the town of Neepawa. If the town of Neepawa does something good, we're going to call it like it is. If the town of Neepawa does something bad, we're going to call it out as well. Even if we know these people, even if in some cases we know these people as friends or in a friendly manner, that's the way it has to be. So it's unfortunate to call out a local business in this way. Opportunities were granted to sort of allow for multiple sides of the story. We ran with what we had. We'd love to hear, both sides of this. We hope that ultimately it comes with a positive ending, I'd imagine as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope so. It does say in the story as well, but Manitoba Health was notified of the situation too, so hopefully that sort of helps smooth things out and gets it dealt with. I hope that we won't have to hear about something like this again in the future. I mean, obviously things happen, but I don't know. It's just unfortunate to have to write about something like this.
It's how you react to the things that happen that shows the character.
Exactly, yeah. And, you want to have businesses in your community that show that they care. And we have a lot of those in my experience. But, this time just didn't seem to hit the mark, which is very, very unfortunate.
Yeah. Let's shift over to something a little more positive, a little more progressive for the town of Neepawa. A very interesting thing popped out from the most recent town council meeting. The town of Neepawa is partnering with a business called Food Cycle Science, I believe, off the top of my head, and they're going to be working together to bring 100 plus pieces of machinery known as the Food Cycler and participating in the Food Cycler program. You can find that story on page 2 of the Banner Press. It's very interesting, though. I got to admit I was a little unfamiliar with this machinery. Essentially, if you have food waste, if you have leftovers that are left over for a little too long, you can throw them into this machinery and it'll compost it down and remove some of the methane that comes from food substances and whatnot if they're put, and it minimizes the methane development, because when you throw food waste into the garbage, gets compacted down. I mean, that causes energy, that sort of creates the methane, and it's an environmental issue. But also, it just takes up so much space, food waste. They say roughly almost 50% of garbage thrown out is food waste right now. So that's taking up a lot of space as well in our landfills. Now, these little machines, which are about the size of a bread maker, you throw the food in there, it composts it down. It's usable in your garden, in your backyard. A very environmentally friendly way to get rid of food waste. So it's very intriguing. I'm not doing it justice the way I'm explaining it right now. That's why you need to pick up a copy of the paper and read it on page 2. So much so that I'm actually I'm going to inquire about this myself. They're going to be giving out 100 of these to households in Neepawa. And you're going to have to do 3 months with it, and you're going to have to keep a log of how often you use it, when you use it, what you use it for type thing, because they are doing research into this. There's about 33 other communities that are already taking part in the program, and 1 or 2 of them that are at the end or have completed it, they've been very positive about it. These machines cost around $500. Fortunately, they're subsidized, so a portion of it's going to be taken care of by the town, portion of it by Food Cycle Science, and about 150 you cover yourself, but you get to keep the machine at the end of it. So keep an eye out. They're not taking names just yet at the town office. They'll be letting the public know when they're ready to go with this, but it's a very exciting program. I think it's going to do a lot of positive for this community.
Yeah, I admit I'm very interested to see where this program goes, because it's, fascinating technology. And I don't think I've heard about a program like this before until now. And the fact that we're going to have like 100 people be able to participate in this experiment, I guess you could say, is incredible. And I believe in the story you said there that there's like 33 other communities. Was it in the country or
Yep,
the
in
province?
Canada.
Okay, in Canada that are participating in this as well. So it's exciting.
Yep. All right, we're going to cut over to a couple other things right now. We are running a little short on time. Definitely want to talk about these two things. First off, you found out about a special anniversary for the post office here. Talk to us about the 145.
Yeah, so I was actually just doing some archive work to work ahead on looking back there. I like to keep ahead on that just in case, because things happen, and
like snowstorms.
Like snowstorms, and people being away for one reason or another. So I like to be ahead on that, and then nobody else has to stress about doing the archives. And then of course, if I need to, I can take some time away to do some stories. But yeah, the Neepawa Postal Services is actually 145 years old this year. And then, of course, in 5 years, they'll be celebrating the 150 mark. We didn't get a permanent post office building until about 1908, 1909. But it had a bunch of temporary locations since like 1877, which was just fascinating to hear about. Because I did know about our post office locations. The one off the top of my head there just used to be the Team Electronics, which is also where I believe the customs building was, and it sort of shared a space there with the customs. And yeah, so that was just really cool to find. And this actually came up because, and you will see it in a future looking back, but there was a special celebration held, Eoin, for the 100th anniversary celebration of the first post office building.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so that was very cool to find.
That's very cool find, and very great to be able to, the work you do in the archives to come up with this little gem of a story. You want to check that out on this week's paper. It's one of those interesting little things that maybe we didn't even realize, and it's always nice to sort of discover. So hopefully you discover it as well in this week's paper. One other story to talk about just very quickly this week. Congratulations to the Sports Person of the Year for Neepawa. And that person is Landon Cameron. You may know him as the golf pro and the manager for the Neepawa Golf and Country Club, but he's much more than that. Obviously, the golf is very important, and the commitment to next generation golfers, very important as well. But he is also a big part of the annual breakfast program that goes on at the Yellowhead Arena. And that's a big part of why he was selected as this year's Sports Person of the Year, because his love for the game of golf, his love for hockey. He also does coaching in the minor hockey league ranks. And he was very quick as well. We spoke to him. He was very quick to pass the recognition to all the other people that are a part of it, the individuals who started the breakfast program, the individuals who support with the breakfast program, that go out every week during the winter, in the cold, in the darkness, and put together this thing. The Neepawa Titans, the Neepawa farmers as well. He very much wanted to share the wealth, as it were. And that just shows sort of the type of individual that he is. It's very great. And I think it's a really good choice this year, in my estimation. Every single year, they sort of select someone who does something for the betterment of sport in Neepawa. I think this was a good example this year of done right.
Yeah, I'm certainly inclined to agree. I mean, his name has come up quite a bit over the years in regards to sort of just all things sports, really. And it's, I can't really think of anyone off the top of my head that could be a better fit for this year. I mean, there's a lot of great candidates out there, I'm sure, but definitely Landon Cameron was an excellent pick, and so I'm glad to hear that he got that recognition.
couple weeks ago, we ended up doing a story about the sports dinner coming up and about the selection, and you put down the list of all the people who've won it in the past. It's such a wide swath of different sports. In a community like this, sometimes you think hockey, hockey, hockey. But no, it was like basketball, boxing / mixed martial arts, figure skating, gymnastics, baseball. Such wonderful representation of all the different aspects of physical activity and sport. It's really nice to see.
Yeah, because we do have a lot going on here in terms of sport. Like, it's not just the hockey, like we have ice skating, all that sort of stuff here. So there's a lot of different people involved in that part of our community that are really just getting out there and putting their all into it. So happy to see that.
That's right. And congratulations once again, Landon. A couple minutes left. Just want to talk about a couple things real quick. Cancer Awareness Month right now. We do have a special center spread on that. There are other stories we just didn't have the time to get to, like Ken and Chris Waddell's story on the Maple Syrup Festival making its return in McCreary. Under normal circumstances, would definitely finish off the last couple minutes talking about that. But I want to take a couple minutes right now for a personal thing. For those of you that may know, and if you don't, I'll share with that right now. I haven't been on the show the last couple weeks. A very good friend of mine, Al Gillies, passed away. And you're familiar with the Gillies family. Neil, Darlene, they run Neepawa Tire. Warren Gillies was a steward of this community. Such a great individual. So many different support groups. And Al, at 53, if I remember correctly, a couple years older than me, yet somehow he always looked younger than me. He had more hair on his head. He had less gray hair on his head and less wrinkles and worries. But that's the way he was. He didn't worry about life. He was a liver of it. He was a very positive person. The one thing I wanted to share right here on the show is that he had an appreciation for NACTV. When Ivan Trail was running it, he'd always pop in, take a few minutes, talk to Ivan, always checking in with Ivan when he was at the baseball games or covering hockey. He was a supporter of it back in the time. He fell away from it, but he was supportive. A writer for the Neepawa Press when it was owned by Glacier. I know because I'd always hear him complain about the way Glacier was running it. Don't worry, he still complained about the way Ken ran it as well from time to time. But he, more than anything, cared about Neepawa. He was one of Neepawa's biggest cheerleaders. He'd talk this community up to anyone and everyone in Brandon, Portage, Dauphin, Winnipeg. Didn't matter. He'd talk this place up. So I want to take a few minutes to acknowledge that. My condolences to the Gillies family, obviously. They're a steward of this community as well. And just a brief request for you. If you knew Al, if you liked him, if you didn't like him, whatever, do this for me and do this for the family. He loved Neepawa so much. He always wanted it to be better. So just somewhere along the line, do one little thing to make Neepawa just a little bit better. And don't think of it as a daunting task. Just even if it's just planting some flowers in your garden, even if it's just cleaning up a little bit of litter while you're on the walk in and around town. Just one of those little things, because honestly, Al would appreciate that. He really, really would. And I think it's the right way to sort of honor the memory of the individual. Like I said, he was a good man, a little frustrating at times. Anyone who knew Al knew he ran on Al time, which was usually about 15 to 20 minutes later than standard Central Time. But, he was a good guy and supported the community. And hopefully you will as well. And continue to support the community and continue to support NACTV and the Neepawa Banner and Press. This is a little different ending than what we normally have, but I just wanted to take a few minutes. We're going to get back into the regular sort of endings, as it were, next week. But I just want to say thank you, and thanks, Casper, for coming in, sitting down, and walking us through this.
Absolutely happy to be here once again.
Yeah. And thank you. Stay safe out there and have a good week.